going, you know what I mean, for that type of analogy, so that you know the kids in Iowa are being taught the same material as the kids here in Illinois.
Does anybody else agree with that or want to add to it? College and career readiness, and wanting everybody across the United States to have the same foundation.
Wasn't it more for a more rigorous curriculum guide, a framework for that?
Okay, and another part of that is a more rigorous curriculum. And why did they want that? Or can you go ahead?
I think they want us to have more mastery and not just exposure to concepts, because our kids know a little bit about a lot of things. They don't do well with close reading. So hence the need for complex tests, long and short reads. And I think one word, the hallmark would be rigor.
Okay, rigor is another part of it, isn't it? So that they want kids to go deeper, no more, have a rigorous curriculum.
Well, also, wasn't there a change with NCLB where other schools, instead of having a certain level for mastery, some states were lowering that mastery level? So they were saying, okay, our kids are achieving mastery, but whereas, you know, you came up here to Illinois or to Iowa, they were not at a mastery level. So I think that was part of it also.
Yeah, where did our schools get caught in this NCLB requirement that everybody be at grade level by 2012, right? And so schools go into corrective action.
Right.
Because one small part of the school population isn't succeeding. And so we've had a huge political context for education, and how do we ensure mastery? States then lowered what was required in the state because they didn't want all their schools to be in corrective action, and you can understand that because even some of the high schools around here are in good high schools in corrective action because of a special ed population or some immigrant students. So, yeah. How to make sure on the NAEP, do you know what happened on NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress? Okay, this was what led in part to the Common Core Standards, was that we do give, and Illinois finally had to participate in it starting like 5 years ago, the National Assessment of Educational Progress in reading every other year. And they do a matrix sampling of each of the states, students in each of the states. And that gives us a national comparison about how Illinois is doing compared to Wisconsin, compared to Arkansas, compared to New York and Massachusetts. And on that assessment, it revealed how differentially the state assessments were giving students credit for succeeding, or schools credit for succeeding. And on NAEP, there are very large discrepancies among the states on how students do. And so that was part of this apples and oranges. No, they want a curriculum. They want standards that students are going to be held to across the United States. And so there are real reasons for having a movement of Common Core standards. But then what did that hit in terms of our national value structure about the role of the federal government and the role of the states in education? And that's why if you look at the title of these, it's the Common Core State Standards. You know, these standards were developed nationwide, but they are put out there to the states for the states to choose if they want to adopt them or not. 47 of the 50 states have adopted the standards.
Who's the third one? Texas, Alaska, who's the third one?
Texas, Arizona, Alaska, is that it? Or was it North Dakota?
Is it Virginia?
No, Virginia hasn't adopted.
Oh,
That's
so
because Virginia has their own SOLs, standards of learning. So, yeah, Virginia. But, you know, you can understand why. Massachusetts, there was a big debate. Massachusetts standards were at least as rigorous as these Common Core standards. And it was all politics. Do we go to the Common Core, or do we stay with our own state standards? And there's a lot of political pressure because you can get federal dollars if you adopt the Common Core standards. So even though these are listed as state standards, underlying them is the desire to make a more equitable, equal approach to education across the United States, and to ensure that students have the same access to learning, no matter where they live. Now that's a huge, huge challenge as we think about the differences even from small districts in downstate Illinois compared to Willowbrook or Hinsdale here in this suburban area, because we know the resources are not equally allocated, that faculty don't have equal resources, that professional development isn't equal. So it's a vision. That's why I put the vision here. Other things you know about the Common Core State Standards, the beginning of them also came from the issue when students go to college in the United States. What happens to many of them? They fail. They are not prepared, and they go into...
Remedial reading?
That's right. So do you know what percentage of American college students have to take remedial courses? What?
Is it 25%?
40?
Yeah, over 40%. And it depends on either in reading or math. And so our state legislators and our colleges and universities are saying, wait, something is broken. Kids are getting to college unprepared. And we're having to now add courses to help them. And so part of our vision is that by the time kids graduate from high school, they are really college and career ready. And that's the language that's being used. And one of the things that Sally Hampton talked about when she gave a talk last spring was that when they were developing the Common Core standards, one of the things they did, because they had heard this message and they'd read the data, they went out to colleges and bought college textbooks. And they analyzed the difficulty level of those college textbooks. For freshman year college, they took all freshman year texts. They didn't take the middle ones. And they looked at the readability on those textbooks. What reading level do students have to be at if they're going to be able to succeed in college level texts? Anybody want to add to the story? You know what they found? Anybody want to add to what they found? Well, we'll get to that in just a minute. I have a slide on it, okay? Okay, but does this, any other basic questions about why the Common Core state standards are with us now and why they give us some real possibilities for bringing equity, for bringing some commonality? I know all apples and oranges, but I like apples in the fall, so we'll say all apples.
I think they address a lot of social skills that sometimes get lost in our school districts where we're so worried on academic part, we forget about some of the
Can you hear her? That
social skills and skills that teach kids to be successful not only in college and life, but turning things into and dressing appropriately.
Now that's a listen, think about what Barbara's saying, that Common Core standards may address social skills,